This just adds another wrinkle to an already tough situation, as the Habs decor has now resurfaced as the biggest question this offseason. With the 2C question still being in mind, the future of the decor has been discussed at length, and recently on BPM Sports, one person said that they truly believe that Habs management has one specific player over the other in terms of the future outlook for the decor, and how a guy like Arber Xhekaj could very well get a lot of interest in trade talks. We have to revisit this Arber Xhekaj trade talk and some Jayden Struble stuff as well. But speaking of the decor, David Reinbacher has been making some noises. He was participating in a charity game where he was higher up in the lineup than I think some people would have expected. And also a somewhat unfortunate update on the Mason McTavish front. All of that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And we're just going to dive straight into it. And we're going to rip the band-aid off here, Jesse, because we've been talking a lot about Mason McTavish. And it was actually Anthony DeMarco from Daily Faceoff that recently said Montreal was keeping tabs on Mason McTavish. However, ultimately he said, I don't think the Ducks will move McTavish. My best guess is that a bridge deal ultimately gets done. Now, the interesting thing here is that it is a bridge deal. It seems like McTavish, Jesse, from what we're hearing, McTavish wants long-term in Anaheim. But it looks like Anaheim wants a bridge deal. And if you're McTavish, hey, okay, maybe he'll accept a bridge deal. But again, if you're accepting a contract that reportedly is not your first choice, it still lends to the trade rumors for him. Now, if he does sign a bridge deal, I'm not saying the Habs are, it's impossible to trade for him. It does seem for the moment that the trade talks have cooled down a bit. Everyone's keeping tabs and might get a bridge deal done. But Jesse, again, as much as it is maybe bad news for the immediate trade future, I think that if he does settle for a bridge deal, when reports say he wants a longer-term deal, could still indicate something could happen in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and you can definitely see why they want to keep him. But Josh, I'm not giving up hope on this. Hughes isn't until the fat lady sings or in the situation he really signs here going forward, because we know how he could be really just a tremendous add to this team going forward here. But again, you have to feel like Pat Verbeek and Kent Hughes have talked at least once about this situation, Josh. And if this deal doesn't go down, you have to feel like a big part of the reason for that is that Kent Hughes did not want to meet the asking price of a David Reinbacher plus, maybe first-round pick, or a Michael Xhekaj and a first-round pick, because Kent Hughes has the assets to make this deal done. That's one thing we need to be sure about. It's just maybe more of a situation where he doesn't want us to overpay. Josh, I clearly see, though, once this situation does get sorted, Kent Hughes potentially pivoting to another option, whether that's kind of a vet going forward. I see that being more of like a placeholder if we miss out on more of that long-term situation with McTavish until really Xhekaj can come in. But the thing right now is that, there could be a lot of pressure on this situation. If either Newhook or Dach aren't performing as well as they are early on the season, even if we don't get that 2C before the 2C before the season begins, I really feel like if they're not performing, Kent's not going to hesitate to make that move sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing because it is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Unless Kirby Dach turns into some magical, amazing 2C. I'm not holding out hope for that. I don't think anyone is. Would love it. Unlikely. But at this point, something's going to happen eventually. Will it be McTavish? I don't know. The thing is, though, again, Jesse, I feel like Montreal would be one of these places that's willing to sign him long-term. Maybe strange that Anaheim doesn't want to. Maybe they want to evaluate the rest of their forwards. But again, the fact they want him on a bridge deal is interesting because sometimes it is the player who wants the bridge deal. But hey, we'll just have to wait and see. But let us know your thoughts on the McTavish situation down below as we got to move on to some current Habs prospects. And you brought his name up, and that's David Reinbacher. Now, I pulled this from Reddit, as you can see here. Reinbacher in a charity hockey game today in Zurich between Swiss, Austrian, and German players, and also a French player. I think I saw Alexander Texier there, but you can see Reinbacher on the bench. But I want to just highlight this roster first off. Holy crap, what a charity roster this is. Your centers are Hischier, Stutzler, Rossi, and Pius Suter. Your fourth line has Nito Niederreiter on it. But the big point here on defense, Jesse, is David Reinbacher there on the second pairing. And, I know it is just a charity game, but William Lagesson, Habs legend, by the way, I think he was part of that original Kulak deal, if I'm not mistaken. Landed Lane Hutson, so look at that. But also Leon Bichel there on that third pairing. Both guys who have played in the NHL, and David Reinbacher up there with JJ Moser on the second pairing is really interesting. And again, Reinbacher, I think, just gets so many cool opportunities. First of all, it's so awesome to see him skating on this like really good roster with a bunch of NHL players everywhere, getting second pairing honors. Now, whether that actually means, oh my god, he's second pairing over Bichelle, that means he's better right now, who knows? But at the same time, it's really cool to see Habs players in these environments and getting some extra minutes, getting some love in the lineup at least, that, especially for a guy like him who hasn't played that much, we're still trying to evaluate him. It sure seems like a lot of his contemporaries seem to value him pretty highly.
That's one of the big things, of course, with all the injuries that David Reinbacher's had. Getting really on the ice is just so key for him right now, even with just the charity game. And he's just one of many Habs players right now that are just having such an active summer. Again, we're seeing the hype videos getting released, looking impressive, Josh, in training. And it's really, I've maintained, like, as we're seeing him develop, especially last year in the HL, where we saw the offense and we know he's smooth, but again, like, that ability also to be able to protect the net and be physical. Again, when we're looking with David Savard off the team and who's going to kind of fill that role, Arber, Xhekaj, it's like, don't rule out that David Reinbacher might got a little bit more of a dog than you think. And he actually, I feel, Josh, like he's better than a lot of Habs fans actually realize that he is in the moment. Like, I feel like this guy has the potential to really surprise us. Like, some people think it's maybe vanilla and his ceiling isn't that high. I think he's got a higher ceiling than most here going forward. And I'm just really impressed to see what he's going to be able to do here. Again, amazing, like just looking at the level of the competition that he is playing with. Again, if we could kind of just, it's not saying everything, but this is just a good look for him going forward that he's invited to this level of games. Like, it's going to show that he's getting that respect from his peers. And I think that respect is certainly going to go down to the common fan, much more regularly very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that Petr Cech in that? To see? Anyway, no. But like Akira Schmid down there as well. Really, really cool stuff. But you're absolutely right. The love from his contemporaries is awesome. And I'm just excited to see what he can do. Again, the pairing right behind Jonas Siegenthaler and Mo Seider, two very well-established NHL players, with Seider being one of the better defensemen in the league. So just really, really cool. And I think you're right, Jesse. Not only is his ceiling, I think, higher than people give it credit for, his floor seems to also be very high. So leave some love for our boy David down below and what you think he's going to end up doing this season. But again, Jesse, when it comes to the decor, like we alluded to earlier, there are a lot of question marks right now, and especially around that final left D spot, as we're looking at guys like Arber, Xhekaj, and I should go to the defense here. Arber, Xhekaj, and you don't even see Jayden Struble here in Puckpedia's things, but again, it's Xhekaj and Struble fighting for that last spot, because as of this moment, before any trades go down, Matheson, Dobson, Guhle, Hutson, Carrier, all locks, at least in my eyes, to be part of the opening night roster, right? And then it's down to Xhekaj and Struble. And recently on BPM Sports, link down below if you want to go check it out, JP Bertrand said this: Arber Xhekaj is indispensable to the Canadiens, especially in a playoff run.
Yes.
He's a player who brings a physical dimension that no one else on the team does, and if you put him on the market tomorrow morning, there would be 31 clubs calling to inquire about his services. Don't forget, Jesse, teams have offered first-round picks for Xhekaj. We have said no.
True.
But the Canadiens management likes Jayden Struble as a hockey player much more. Now, again, this is, I think, more so Bertrand's opinion, but I don't necessarily think he's totally wrong. And he goes, the Canadiens management considers Struble much more reliable defensively, much better at jumpstarting the offense. He's in the Canadiens' plans. It's as simple as that. And Martin St. Louis, I'm convinced, would agree with me. And I wonder if I agree with this, Jesse, because when it comes down to these two, it feels like the age-old dilemma. We're seeing people toss out different ideas for Xhekaj, maybe play him at forward just to keep him on the team. It's going so far as to see that, right? Because we want to keep both. But this question is really interesting, and I would tend to agree that Struble seems to be the guy that's more relied upon, but Xhekaj has that X factor, pardon the pun, not really, like, that brings it to games. And so to hear now, like, Xhekaj probably has more trade value, and if the Habs do see Struble as more of a fit long-term, I don't know. I don't see Xhekaj being traded, but something has to give, and I'm starting to stress out over what it is.
It's one of many dynamic situations that the Habs have, both at forward at the 2C position, a little bit of a fluid situation, as well as on defense. Like, who's going to really take that sixth spot? Because there's three guys, but you could argue like Adam Engstrom, like how far is he really away from being an NHL player? Not far. In my opinion, not far. And you really want to respect that. And he's showing really great development. The last thing you want to do is stifle at this point by kind of missing out on his opportunity when he's really so close. So, like, Josh, we've talked about this before, even quite recently on the show, that Xhekaj's value is really through the roof throughout the league. And, like, it's really a question of, like, how long is Kent Hughes going to keep saying no? Now, I hope eventually, and, I hope, like hopefully like just that he keeps saying no, because for me, in my opinion, Xhekaj is more important than Struble. And again, this was very well highlighted during the playoffs when, as much as I like Struble in that consistent game, I just find it could be more replaceable in that third pairing than what Xhekaj brings. There's just more of a demand for that reason. We started with Struble, and I like him a lot. I think he brings a lot to the team. And again, maybe plays to the whole example of certain guys that bring you to the playoffs and certain guys that get you through the playoffs. And Xhekaj, in my opinion, if we were starting with him from game one, this series would have looked differently against the Washington Capitals. I even believe that even a good chance we could have won, even though we're a much younger team. I've really contended that from the beginning. And of course, we saw the impact. It was obvious right away from that Arber Xhekaj brought. It's in fact, you could argue what they needed. Like the team was like ignited once he got into the lineup. You really want to bring that momentum much earlier. You had to feel like Martin St. Louis is going to learn from that mistake, dare I say, next year going into the playoffs by really having Arber Xhekaj in the lineup. I don't think we can argue what he really brought to the lineup there. At the same time, it's like, it's really for that reason. Like, why is Arber Xhekaj like so effective in the playoffs? He's an agitator. Like, it's not him alone that, like, when he plays that roles that team have success. You can really, I think of like the Florida Panthers and a Sam Bennett, a guy who elevates his play in the playoffs, and those around him. Arber Xhekaj completely cut from the same cloth. That's why when we're making these very key like decisions coming forward, although I do contend that a Matheson trade is necessary given positionally where he would best be suited, his value, but also the tertiary effect of how he kind of opens up that spot for some of those young guys, which I think is the changing of guard, which is just a larger theme the Habs have been doing right now. I think that really kind of makes sense, but Arber Xhekaj is one of those guys I think you're going to want to keep around over the long term.
Yeah, I wonder, right? Like you said, I hope we keep saying no, but I wonder what teams will start offering for it. Like, he is a third pairing defenseman. The advanced analytics don't love him, but there's stuff that advanced analytics can't see. Like, that's just the way it is. There are X factors. Like, I keep saying that, but like, it's true. And so, again, hearing what JP Bertrand's saying is like, I don't totally disagree with the idea that Jayden Struble fits objectively the mode of how the Montreal Canadiens want to play hockey better. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But where I kind of disagree is that, like, maybe that could mean that he's in the plans longer term over Arber, because I think that there's just stuff that we can't quantify with numbers. We got to hear from you guys. What do you think about what JP Bertrand said? Do you agree that Struble's in the long-term plans and maybe Arber is not? Could you see one of these guys get traded? And if so, which one is it? We'd love to hear from you, because something's got to give. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. And hey, if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment. Most importantly, though, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day, all off-season long. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.